In the Amazon, death does not always explode. Sometimes it disappears. A capybara steps into the shallows. The water looks calm. Then the surface folds like a heavy rope rolling under it. The capybara jolts. One splash, and the river swallows the rest. A caiman drifts near the bank, half asleep in the heat. You see only the eyes until something darker slides beneath it. The caiman thrashes once. Then the noise cuts off, like someone muted the world. A deer comes down to drink. The river does not move. Then the water pulls sideways fast, and the legs disappear first. A bird skims low over the surface, chasing insects. A ripple rises under it, a sudden strike, and the air turns empty. A dog on a small boat barks at the water, not at a fish, not at a wave, at something it senses but cannot see. Then it goes silent. If you have ever wondered how a predator can kill without being seen, this is it. Here is the question. How big does an anaconda have to be to make the Amazon go quiet? Before we go deeper, comment one word: real or myth. If you want part 2 of Amazon, Land of Giants, subscribe now, because the next chapter goes deeper. Tonight we are doing 3 things. First, we follow the legend of the giant anaconda, the one people whisper about as 33 feet. Second, we explain why this place can hide something that big, even in the age of drones and satellites. Third, we follow the silence itself, to a bend of black water locals avoid like a locked door. Stay to the end, because the final sign is not what you see, it is what you stop hearing. If the giant anaconda is only a myth, this film ends with answers. But if it is real, you will understand why some people refuse to look down. There are places on Earth where you do not have to see anything to know you are being watched. The Amazon is one of those places. Not because it is dark, not because it is far, because there are stretches of river that go quiet for no good reason. You can hear the engine. You can hear your own breathing. But the jungle goes still, and in those silent zones, locals repeat a warning like a rule. Do not look down into the water. A boatman once described an afternoon after the rain, when the river stopped reflecting the sky. It turned black, thick, like dark glass. The boat slowed in the mud, and then the surface to the left split apart, like something moved underneath it. Not like a fish thrashing, not like a caiman surfacing. This was different. It was long, continuous, smooth, like a massive rope sliding beneath a layer of silt. He did not look down, because what he felt did not feel like seeing an animal. It felt like standing next to something too big for your brain to label. When he got back to shore, he said only one thing: there is something out there that does not want to be seen. We call it a forest, but the Amazon is a living system on a massive scale. The river is the road, the canopy is the roof, the mud is a blanket, and the darkness is a door. Out here, size gets weird. Small things can hurt you, and the things that really hurt you usually do not make noise. The Amazon does not create monsters to scare people. It creates extremes, because the conditions allow life to become the biggest version of itself. And among all the names that keep showing up in stories, one name always returns: anaconda. People argue about a lot in the Amazon, but when it comes to anacondas, the argument always circles back to one question: how big can it get? There is a number that repeats in local accounts: 33 feet, roughly 10 meters, not measured with a tape, more like someone stood close enough that they carried the memory for life. Along the river, people describe something that lies still like a fallen log, until the moment a prey animal steps too close, and the log starts breathing. They talk about a squeeze so powerful the water around it ripples, like the river itself is being pulled downward. And then there are the stories that are the hardest to shake. The ones with no blood, no screaming, no struggle, just a disappearance. But here is the problem. If a 10-meter anaconda is real, why has no one captured clear video? We live in the age of drones, stabilized cameras, and high-resolution sensors. And yet this thing survives like a rumor. That leaves 2 possibilities. 1, it does not exist. Or 2, the Amazon is doing what it does best: hiding. Underwater, an anaconda does not need speed. It does not hunt like an animal on land. It does not need a chase. Because the river does something for it that no predator on land gets for free. It erases evidence. A small movement under the mud can look like current. A long shadow can vanish in the time it takes you to blink. And if you ask people who have lived here long enough, they will tell you something that sounds strange at first. You do not fear the anaconda because it attacks. You fear it because you do not know when it is already beneath you. In the Amazon, the scariest thing is not something that jumps out. It is the feeling that something has been there the whole time. Let me tell you a story that sounds simple. A fisherman was pulling a net near a narrow channel, the kind of place where the water barely moves. He said the net came up wrong. Not torn, not empty, just heavy in a way that did not make sense. When he leaned over the side to look, the line went tight like it was hooked on a log. Then the log moved, slowly, like it was deciding whether to let him go. He did not see a head, he did not see eyes, he saw the water swell, like a body turning beneath the surface. He dropped the line, backed away, let the net disappear. Later he said something that sticks with you. The worst part was not that it took the net. The worst part was realizing it could have taken the boat. That is how these stories always sound. Not like an action movie, like a warning. If you are still watching, picture the river in your mind. Do you picture danger coming from the shore? Or do you picture danger rising from below? Because the Amazon is built for concealment. The canopy blocks overhead views. The water is stained with sediment and decaying plant matter. And beneath the surface there is mud, roots, and darkness. Even modern tools struggle here. Not because they are weak, because the environment is designed to defeat them. And when information disappears, myths do not die. They evolve. This is where we talk about numbers, because the internet loves numbers. People always ask for the maximum, the biggest, the longest, the heaviest. But in a place like the Amazon, numbers can be a trap. Not because numbers are useless, because numbers make us feel safe. If we can name the size, we think we can control the fear. Here is the truth. The Amazon does not care about our categories. A local might tell you it was 33 feet, and you might assume he is exaggerating. Maybe he is, but what he is really saying is this. It was bigger than anything I expected to exist here, and it moved like it belonged here. That is a different kind of measurement. Not inches, not centimeters. Certainty. Now think about what you actually see on a river like this. You do not see the full body. You see water behaving wrong. You see a wake that does not match the current. You see a bulge that rises and falls like something shifting underneath. You see floating leaves drift in a straight line, as if something is pushing water from below. And your brain tries to finish the picture. That is not stupidity, that is survival. Humans evolved to complete patterns fast, because hesitation used to get people killed. But in black water, pattern completion becomes dangerous, because the Amazon gives you half information. Movement without a silhouette, pressure without a shape, silence without a reason. So the story fills in the missing half. One fisherman tells another. A boatman warns a newcomer, do not look down. And the legend gains weight, not because everyone is lying, because everyone is describing the same experience from different angles. Water behaved wrong. That is the most consistent detail, and it matters more than the exact number, because water does not exaggerate. Water reacts. If something heavy turns beneath the surface changes. It does not need to splash. It does not need to break. It only needs to displace. And displacement is what people remember, not a head, not teeth. The feeling that the river moved under them. That is why the giant anaconda story survives the modern world. Because modern proof is designed for clarity, and the Amazon is designed to erase clarity. People say, if it is real, show me the video. But the Amazon does not play fair with cameras. Most cameras are trained on the wrong world. They look for the surface. But the story is under the surface. Black water turns the surface into a screen. It reflects the canopy. It reflects the sky. It reflects your own boat. It gives you 100 shadows that are not real. So when one shadow is real, you do not notice. That is problem one. Problem two is motion. If you film from a small boat, you are shaking. If you film from shore, vegetation blocks the view. If you film from above, the canopy is a ceiling. Even if something huge moves beneath the water, you may only catch the river reacting. A bulge, a lift, a drift of leaves moving against the current. Then it is gone. Problem 3 is fear. Fear changes behavior. When someone believes something huge is beneath them, they do not stay still and film. They back away. They raise the motor. They pull the boat to shore. They leave. So the only moments when a perfect video could exist are moments when someone is calm enough to keep recording. And calm is not what the Amazon gives you in the silent hour. Now we get to the pattern. People who work these rivers talk about patterns, not guarantees. Patterns. They will tell you the jungle has a rhythm, and sometimes something interrupts it. Birds stop calling. Small fish vanish from the edges. Even the water changes, not in color, in mood, flat, heavy, like it is waiting. You can call that superstition, you can call it coincidence, but predators do not just affect prey, they affect ecosystems. A big hunter changes the behavior of everything around it, even if you never see it. Here is what matters. In the Amazon, silence is not normal. The forest is usually loud. Insects, birds, frogs, wind and leaves. Noise is the default setting. So when noise drops, people notice. And in certain places, locals say it drops at the same time, again and again. They call it the silent hour. No one can explain why it happens, but many people agree on what it feels like. It feels like the jungle is holding its breath. And when the jungle holds its breath, you should pay attention. Pause here and tell me what you believe. Do you think the silent hour is superstition? Or do you think it is an ecosystem warning? Comment what you think. A man who worked cargo on the river told a story that sounded almost too simple. He said he was standing at the edge of a dock, watching the water because it was unusually flat. He noticed a bundle of floating vegetation drifting toward the posts. It got close, then it stopped. Not caught on anything, not stuck. It stopped like it was pinned from below. He watched it. Then the bundle moved sideways, slow, controlled, like something was moving under it. He did not see a head. He did not see a tail. He saw a shape under the surface change the water without breaking it. And he said the strangest part was not fear. It was the feeling that the river had a decision to make, like something down there was thinking. That is what the Amazon does to you. It turns nature into intention. And once your mind starts doing that, you are already in the story. Here is the roadmap again. We are going to answer 3 questions. Why does the Amazon produce giants? Why do bends in black water matter? And what would it look like if something very large lived here and stayed mostly unseen? Then we follow the silence into one specific kind of place. A bend where the current slows, where debris collects, where prey animals come to drink because it looks calm. If you want part 2, subscribe, because the next chapter goes deeper. Now let us talk about the Amazon as a factory for giants. Warmth matters, food matters, time matters. This river system is packed with life, fish, birds, small mammals, reptiles. The more life you have, the more energy exists to support large predators. Then there is concealment. If you can stay hidden, you can survive long enough to grow. That is the advantage of black water and heavy vegetation. Large animals are easier to spot in open environments. But in the Amazon, even a boat can vanish behind leaves and bends. So imagine an animal built to blend into water and mud. Imagine it can spend most of its life half submerged, barely moving. Imagine it does not need to hunt every day like a fast predator. It can wait, and waiting turns time into size. Now, does that guarantee a giant anaconda? No. But it explains why the idea refuses to die. Because the environment does not forbid it, it invites it. Now we talk about bends. A bend changes everything. The current slows on the inside. Debris collects, silt settles, small fish gather, then bigger fish gather, then predators gather. It is not magic, it is a funnel. A bend is a natural trap. And if you were a predator built for waiting, you would not need to patrol the whole river. You would pick a bend. You would let the ecosystem deliver prey to you. You would become part of the place. So when locals talk about a bend that feels wrong, they might be reacting to something real. Not a monster, a pattern. Now we talk about black water again. Black water is not evil water. It is water stained dark by organic material, plants, and soil. But the effect is the same. It becomes a mirror. It becomes a screen. It becomes a hiding place. And a hiding place is exactly what an ambush predator wants. In black water, edges disappear. You stop seeing where one shadow ends and another begins. And in that confusion, the river can hide something large without ever needing to hide it perfectly. Now let us return to the anaconda, because it is important to understand what makes it frightening. An anaconda is not a movie monster. It does not roar. It does not chase you through the jungle like a nightmare. It is something worse. It is quiet. It is patient. And it is designed to win without being seen. Anaconda hunting is not about speed. It is about position. A body built to disappear in water. A head that can stay almost invisible. Eyes and nostrils placed to watch and breathe while everything else stays hidden. And then, when the moment is right, it closes distance like a door shutting. Most people picture constriction as crushing, but the real terror is simpler. Silence. Constriction does not need noise. It does not need chaos. It is pressure wrapped in muscle, tightening in a rhythm that does not panic, because it does not have to. In muddy water, the river covers the struggle. The surface might ripple once, a few bubbles might rise, and then nothing. That is why old-timers repeat the same rule. Do not look down. Now we shift into the expedition. This is where explanation turns into experience. If you were there, you would not feel brave. You would feel alert, because this is not a place you conquer. It is a place you survive. Imagine entering a channel where the trees lean in. The water narrows, the current slows. Floating debris gathers like it is being collected. The air feels heavy. Sound does not travel the same. This is the kind of place where the Amazon changes your behavior. You talk less, you move slower, you listen for things that are not there. This is where small details matter. A leaf moving against the current. A line of bubbles that appears and then stops. A patch of reeds bending when there is no wind. Again, none of these is proof by itself, but together they form a sentence. Something moved here. Something heavy. Something that knows this place. Now, most people expect one dramatic encounter, but the Amazon rarely gives you that. It gives you a chain of small moments, and that chain is what makes you afraid. First, the noise starts to thin out. The insect chorus fades. Birds stop calling, not slowly, like a switch. Then you notice the water is flatter than it should be. Glassy, but not beautiful. Glassy because of stillness. Then you notice floating debris drift in a way that feels wrong. A small cluster of plants stops as if pinned. Then it moves sideways, slow and controlled. Then your body reacts. Shoulders tense. Breathing gets shallow. You stop talking without deciding to. This is the silent hour, and the first feeling is disbelief, because you did not realize how loud the jungle was until it stopped. Then the feeling becomes something else. A pressure in your chest, a sense of being watched. This is why locals say it like a rule. Do not look down. Because if you look down at black water during the silent hour, your mind will build a picture, and the picture will not let you sleep. Now we reach the bend itself, the black water bend, the place where the current slows, where debris collects, where prey animals come to drink because it looks calm, it looks safe, but safe is often just quiet. And quiet is not the same as empty. This is where the Amazon becomes a stage. The canopy is close, the water is flat, the air is heavy, and the silent hour has arrived. In daylight, you can pretend you would see it coming. At night, you understand the reality. You are not the observer, you are the observed. Now picture the surface, not moving, not sparkling, just dark. Then somewhere in that darkness, the surface changes, not violently, not dramatically. It rises just slightly as if something beneath it shifts its weight. A cluster of bubbles appears, slow and deliberate. Not the chaotic fizz of decay, not the scattered pop of fish, more like an exhale. And the worst part is what you cannot confirm, because your eyes do not give you a clean answer. They give you a suggestion, a long suggestion, a shape that feels too steady to be a trick of light, a shadow that holds its form for 1 second longer than it should. Then the surface smooths out again, like nothing happened. That is how the Amazon keeps its secrets. Not by making them impossible, by making them uncertain. Even the best hidden predator has to obey biology. It must breathe. It must move. It must exist in the physical world. And when something very large exists in the physical world, it changes the world around it. That is why the river reacts. That is why the silent hour feels different. That is why people tell stories. Does that prove there is a giant anaconda? No, but it proves something more important. The Amazon has room for the unknown. And if there is a place on Earth where a giant predator could remain mostly unseen, this is it. If you are still watching, let me ask you one more question. If you were on that river during the silent hour, would you keep filming or would you back away? Comment your answer. Now we land the story. Is the giant anaconda real? The honest answer is the only one the Amazon ever allows. We do not know. And that uncertainty is not a failure of technology. It is the nature of this place. Because the Amazon does not hand you proof. It hands you warnings. It shows you patterns. It changes the behavior of the jungle around you. It lowers the sound. It turns the river into a dark mirror and asks you what you think you saw. And maybe that is why the legend survives. Because a myth does not need a clear photograph to live. Not here. Here, a myth only needs two things. A place that can hide it, and people who feel the silence and understand what it means. The Amazon is land of giants, and the biggest giants are not always the ones we can measure. Sometimes they are the ones the river refuses to show. Before you go, comment what you believe now, real or myth. And tell me this too. What do you think the silent hour really is? Weather, temperature, or an ecosystem warning? If you want part 2, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the river does not end where the water stops. And the next chapter is already waiting. Because whatever owns the silent hour is not the only giant out here. And one last question. If you were on that river during the silent hour, would you keep filming or would you back away?